Welcome back to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I actually recorded this entire episode already, and what ended up happening is because this was an Ask Me Anything episode, meaning I went to Instagram and I posted a question box and let you guys ask me literally anything, that I actually have to split this into two parts because you guys sent in so many good questions and I didn't want to rush through them or not do all of them. So in this first part of the episode, I'm going to focus more on the planning side of things and the Disney World questions, lightning lane stuff, park strategies, and how I think through certain things depending on your kids. And then in part two, we're going to get into more of the personal questions about just kind of like my taste when it comes to resorts and food, behind the scenes of my business, and just more life things. So if you asked a question and you don't hear it in this episode, it's probably coming in part two. But for now, let's just get into it. Hello, and welcome to the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. I'm your host, Dana Stanley, creator of Laid Back Magic. As a mom of three, I know how tough it can be to find time to plan a Disney World trip that doesn't leave you feeling stressed or overwhelmed. That's why I'm here, to help moms like you create Disney vacations that feel even better than they look on paper. Here, we're not chasing perfection, but creating our next favorite memories. So whether you're brand new to Disney or looking to go deeper into the details, this podcast is your go-to for simple tips, mindset shifts, real-life trip recaps, and expert insights to make your trip magical and manageable. New episodes drop every Monday, so be sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment. Okay, let's dive in. I'm going to read the handles as best I can, but this one was from @Ms. She asked 3 park days or park rest park. So I do think you can do 3 full park days as long as that third morning is a chill one. So this would be a good day for like Animal Kingdom because it's just kind of an easier park, but I would not want a early morning. So again, Animal Kingdom, a second park that maybe you're revisiting, like maybe you're doing Magic Kingdom twice. Obviously, it depends a lot on the scenario. And I would definitely use multi-pass and or single passes. And I would know that it wasn't going to be like a super maximized lightning lane day. I just want you to not have an alarm set for that third day, essentially. So let's say you made your first lightning lane of the day at like 11 a.m. I just don't want you to set the alarm, and you can get to the park whenever you want to. That being said, depending on the park scenario that you're doing, you could also skip lightning lanes altogether and do just like a chill second park day. So let's say you did Magic Kingdom and then you did Epcot and then did like a second Magic Kingdom day with no lightning lanes, and you just kind of hit the low wait times, you meet some characters, maybe sit down for lunch. I just wouldn't book a breakfast reservation or anything that you'd have to do in the morning because there's something about that third morning where it just starts to hit you. That's why, like, if you have a week-long vacation, I like park, rest, park, which is why she's asking this. What do you do if you only have 3 park days? I say go for it since it's just a short trip, but that third morning, make it chill. Katrina Walker asked, what to prioritize with toddlers when you only have 2 park hopper days? And really it comes down to not trying to do everything in those 2 days. Like, oh, we only have 2 days, so I really have to like maximize our time. I would think the opposite because you have toddlers. So don't pack it all in. Really choose your 3-2-1s, which as a reminder, that's 3 attractions, 2 experiences like take a picture in front of the castle or meet Mickey Mouse, and then 1 dining reservation that you're really excited about. I would have that set up for both of the days and kind of forget about the rest. Hey, Main Street Besties asked, if you could only tell me 1 tip for a big family trip, what would it be? And I obviously, and she knows this too, like I have a lot to say when it comes to big family trips because we do them pretty often. If I only had to give 1 tip, I feel like it's still going to be 2. The first thing is to just over communicate. People aren't mind readers, right? And a lot of times we think things or we know things. We're doing everything behind the scenes and we genuinely forget who we've told what or who we texted what. And people also, maybe we did tell them and they don't remember. So don't be afraid to be like, hey, I know this is like going to be a lot and I'm just being annoying. I just have to like get this out of my brain so that I know that I told you. The biggest things I think that people want to know about are the actual like timing of things. Like think if someone needed to know, hey, we're rope dropping on this day. You're going to be up at like 6:30 because I want to be at the park at 7:30 or whatever it may be. Or we have dinner at the castle, or we have dinner at this nice restaurant and maybe your mom or your mother-in-law would like to know, that she wants to dress up or things like that. Those are the things I find that come up a lot is like, oh, I wish I had known we were doing this. I would have XYZ, or I didn't know that we were going to be waking up so early on vacation, or I didn't know that we were going to be staying up late on vacation, things like that, of just heads up with the timing of things. The second tip, which I know you only asked for one, is just to kind of like prepare to have your feelings hurt a little bit. Like at some point, you are going to feel a little bit let down, or like you let down someone. You planned for this thing that you secretly knew maybe somebody would like, and they don't feel well. And they say, you know what, I'm actually going to just go back to the room. They don't know that you had this like secret thing in your mind of knowing that they were going to love the dessert or whatever it may be. And at some point that's going to happen. It just, whether it's for a ride or an experience, it's things outside of your control completely. But at some point, your feelings are going to get a little hurt, and that's totally normal and expected because it is literally impossible to make everything perfect, not only for a small group, but for a big group as well. I haven't done a podcast episode specifically about like big groups, but I do have an episode which you've, I'm sure, listened to before, but I'm going to link it in the show notes in case you need a refresher or someone hasn't listened to it, just about like setting expectations for the trip that still apply here. In the same line of thinking, Ariel Otero asked, when you travel with other families, do you send out an itinerary? I don't send my Google sheet with my behind the scenes of my mind because that's that's like very vulnerable for me actually. But what I will do is I'll create a simplified version, just like the Spark Notes version in like my iPhone notes, like Apple Notes, and I'll just share that with the family. You could also do a shared calendar, like a Google Calendar, and just add everyone. And I just let them know the basics. So like it'd be like Sunday, Magic Kingdom, lunch at Jungle Navco. And that's pretty much it. If there's fireworks, I'll rate fireworks. If there's an early morning or some type of like a fireworks dessert party or a character breakfast, just mainly the dining and then like any special notes and the park that we're visiting. The over communication that I mentioned before doesn't necessarily mean to show them like every single hourly plan that you have going on or like a color-coded spreadsheet like I have. It's more of, communicating with them of, we want to do this. Someone in the family also mentioned this. I'm trying to balance all of this. Don't feel like you have to go. Don't feel like, if you guys want to go by the pool, you can do that. I would love to do this nice thing for so-and-so's celebration, and I plan on getting dressed up, just so you know. Like things like that is what I mean by over communicating, not necessarily sending over overwhelming information. Marissa Lecomte, these handles, I don't know why I'm trying to say these, I'm doing my best, asked strategy for adding character dining to a park day with a midday break. So if you have a park day and you have a midday break planned, like you want to go back for nap time or the pool, I love a lunch reservation. Breakfast is really hard in this scenario. If you are going between May and October, I would definitely lean towards lunch because it's just the perfect sweet spot to get out of the heat and kind of relax before maybe doing a couple rides and going back. Whereas breakfast, that's kind of eating up like the good hours of the park time. I love breakfast reservations if it's a chill morning, maybe it's like a second Magic Kingdom day. I've been really liking the lunch character dining lately. That being said, you could also do dinner and do something when you come back from the park. It just depends on if it's in the park or at a resort, kind of is a little nuanced with my answer, but I'm going to lean towards lunch. Sarah JG51 asked how to strategize lightning lanes for new rides, Big Thunder, Muppets, etc. I just have a very simple answer, and that's that you want to grab them first. So obviously the strategy really comes in of how to grab these because the lightning lanes will be selling out quicker than the other rides. So it's good that you're already thinking about this. Number one is that you're going to want to stay on property if you can, because you're going to have first dibs on those lightning lanes. Second thing is if you can put those park days for Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios towards the end of your trip, you'll have an even better chance of getting these. The third thing is to grab my Lightning Lane Toolkit, which has tips in there on how to get those quickly and read the data ahead of time so that you can plan for how these rides are selling out. Abby Everyday asked, is Premier Pass worth it with an 8-year-old who loves big rides and an 8-month-old and want to limit the lines? So if I answer this assuming that we don't have an endless budget, I am usually in the camp of skipping Premier Pass and just putting in a little bit more extra work because I personally am confident that I can and will get the lightning lanes that I want using multi-pass and also grabbing single passes. And this is at around the 10th of the cost. It also depends on the park. Magic Kingdom, I could argue that it's worth it. Again, I'm not going to say that I personally would purchase that. Never say never. But I haven't felt robbed of my lightning lanes using Lightning Lane multi-pass. I have never been like, oh, I couldn't get a lightning lane for that. That being said, I do understand that it does take a lot more work and a lot more mental load, and it's all up to you. So it really comes down to the budget and how much that is worth of freeing up your mind and being able to just walk up and scan. I totally get the appeal. I also don't love that you can't park hop. I think if it followed you wherever you went, I would be a lot more into it, especially because we usually have park hoppers when we visit. Still in the camp of a little bit more work for multi-pass and single pass for a lot less money. Simplifying Disney asked if you could only pick one, the Villain Show versus Little Mermaid at Hollywood Studios, taking a 7-year-old. This is hard because it really depends. I like both, but because you're saying it's a 7-year-old, and I don't know, boy, girl, or what their interests are, and I think both would be wonderful. But if you had to pick or you only had time for one, for that age in particular, I am leaning towards the Villain Show. My daughter, my oldest daughter, when did she see that? I think she was 8 turning 9. And then I had a 5-year-old. I'd have to look at the dates of when they watched that. But they both loved it, absolutely loved it, and still talk about it. So I'm leaning a little bit more towards the Villain Show. It's really fun. I am going to botch this handle. I think it's Meg Stivers, 15 maybe, asked favorite about Boardwalk Resort, good with kids. So I'm going to link a few resources about the Boardwalk in particular because there's so much that I could say about what I love about the Boardwalk. And good with kids is anything good for me is good for the kids, in my opinion. So the fact that we can walk or take the boat to Epcot or Hollywood Studios and have just kind of the nightlife and being in the action at the boardwalk. I love the feeling of the boardwalk. I like everything about it, but it really does come down to the location. The only thing that I could think of to bring up about maybe not being good with kids is if you're visiting during the rainy season, there's nowhere really to get a proper meal without going outside. So if it's downpouring, it can be a little difficult to just easily grab breakfast or grab some pizza without going outside and getting rained on. If you are not visiting during like a very rainy season, or that doesn't sound like it bothers you, or you have a very helpful, willing husband that will go grab food and bring it back to the room for you, then that's not a big deal. The beach club and the yacht club next door have more easy food options. I just like the actual theming and feeling of the boardwalk more than there. And it's usually a little bit cheaper. People really love the beach and yacht club pool called Sturmalong Bay, which has a sand bottom pool. People go crazy for that. I don't particularly care. And depending on the ages of my kids, I actually dislike that pool. The boardwalk pool, I think, is really fun. There's a slide, but it is not, themed as much as something like Sturmalong Bay. That being said, if you are thinking about boardwalk, definitely look into the boardwalk like pool renovation next year, because from mid-January to April, I believe, 2027, the main pool with the slide, and there's like this little playground next to the baby pool, that is going to be closed for refurbishment. No one ever went on that playground because it was too hot, to be honest. But the worst part is that the pool bar is also going to be under refurbishment. That being said, I am visiting the boardwalk while these are closed, and I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. I'm pretty upset about the pool bar. So unless you're like a diehard boardwalk fan like me, if you were looking between those dates, I would definitely be looking at more like beach or yacht club for sure. Sorry, that was a little bit more information than you asked for, but I had to say it just while I was thinking about it. If you're in that phase of planning where literally everyone in your family wants something different, and somehow you're now comparing 3 different resorts, 2 cruise lines, and whether park hoppers make sense, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Magic Society Travel. What stood out to me about them is they're not really doing like a generic copy and paste vacation planning style. They've been in the travel industry for 12 years, have planned over 1,000 vacations. And what's really cool is 68% of their clients come back year after year, which honestly tells you everything you need to know. They help families plan Disney, cruises, even Universal, but in a way that actually fits real life, i.e. not the like fantasy version of your trip that ends up not fitting your family at all. They're known for custom trips that don't cut corners, give real support, and helping you choose the version of vacation that actually feels good for your family. If you want expert help, head to the link in the show notes to start planning something really good with Magic Society Travel. Chloe Page asked, would you ever consider buying DVC? So we are DVC members, and we share the points with our family. That being said, we do not have enough points to go as often as we go. So we have considered buying more points so that we can go more often using those points. But when we were looking into it and the pricing of things, we are not leaning that direction. We are just as happy renting DVC points on the trips that we don't have our own points. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to leave a couple resources in the show notes so that you even know what the heck she's talking about. But long story short, DVC stands for Disney Vacation Club, and that's essentially just Disney World's timeshare. So yes, we are members. No, we are not getting more points. S. Morez 35 asked for DVC rental, which is what I was just talking about. Do you have to be flexible with dates, or can you usually get what you want? I don't have a problem getting what I want if it's between that 7 to 11 month mark. And it depends a lot on the resort too. So there's 2 different things you can do when you're renting DVC points. The first one is you are putting in a request and asking, let's say it's DVC Rental Store, which is like essentially a marketplace for points. You are putting in a request and saying, hey, can you find me a member with points at this resort for these dates for this room type? And they'll kind of play matchmaker behind the scenes, and they book the room for you, and you are renting that member's points to stay there. If you're looking at like Beach Club in the summer or Grand Floridian around Christmas time or a specific room type, you have a much better chance getting what you want if you put in that request like 11 months and a week out, right? Because as soon as that 11-month out mark happens, they can start looking. Second best option is between 7 and 11 months out to put in a request. So the other way to stay using rented points is by buying a reservation that someone has already booked. So a member booked a room and now they can't stay there. Maybe they decided to go somewhere else, or a family member got sick, whatever, life happens, and now they want to sell this booking to you. In that case, it really does pay to be flexible because the stars can align. If I just want to go to Disney World at the boardwalk in September and I go to the confirmed reservations, that's what they're called, I can just see one with kind of around the dates that I want, or maybe it's like 5 nights, which is what I want, and I can just buy it and it's guaranteed and I don't have to go through the whole request process. And honestly, I've done both. I usually do a confirmed reservation because I tend to wait until last minute to book our trips, ironically, and all of the rooms are booked that I want. So it's really nice to have those confirmed reservations when nothing's available because you know that you can just go ahead and buy that. Bailey A. Bell asked bucket list Disney resorts. When I think like bucket list, right, I think of the nicest, most expensive deluxe resorts. So I kind of don't necessarily have a bucket list resort. I do have, I'd say, like a baby bucket list resort trip booked, which is at the Grand Floridian this summer. That is one of the places that I feel like I have stayed there, but I haven't actually stayed there and really want to stay there. So I can kind of cross that off my list. That being said, I would love to do maybe certain room types at places that would be considered bucket list. I'd love to stay club level at the boardwalk, for example. I think it depends too on like who I imagine going with. Like I almost have like bucket list trips. Like I would love to stay at the Grand Californian in Disneyland with my side of the family. I would love, love, love to stay at a Copper Creek cabin with a particular set of friends that love like camping and woodsy things. I'm kind of craving like a cozy, not cold. I know it's never like cold in Florida, but like a cold-ish Disney trip at Wilderness Lodge or like a cabin would be so fun with those particular friends. I think it would be really fun because we usually do more like the spring to fall trips that are warmer and the whole trip kind of leans more tropical. So I kind of have like a bucket list trip in my mind of like a cozy Disney World trip or club level would be really fun. Club level anywhere, honestly, which hopefully one day. In the same line of thinking, Ann Norris asked, have you stayed at Wilderness Lodge? Haven't heard it mentioned staying in May. I love May in Disney World, so I'm jealous of that. I haven't stayed at Wilderness Lodge yet, but maybe my husband is listening and he's buying the whole like cozy Wilderness Lodge vibes in a cooler month, and maybe he'll jump on board. I'll report back. Making Magic with Murray asked Disneyland or Disney Cruise Line? 2 adults, 1 baby, a 3-year-old. Cost and functionality for littles? ? This one's hard. There's pluses and minuses to those ages of a baby and a 3-year-old for either of those. Like for me, when I think about Disneyland, I really would love my son to be able to ride Radiator Springs Racers, and he's not quite tall enough. So that is when I'm timing a Disneyland trip, is when we can all ride mostly everything. So depending on your 3-year-old, like I would be measuring the 3-year-old and seeing how many things they could potentially ride, or, you know, if it's a year away, you'll have to guess a little bit how much they could potentially ride. And then the thing about the baby on the cruise line is they're not able to go to the kids clubs yet. That's something that I am thinking about as well. You could still have them go to, I think they call it like a nursery, which I believe you have to book ahead of time. So the 1-year-old is a little bit harder on the cruise line. And I want to say I feel like I'll look this up and I'll only put this in here if I'm right. But I think they have to be potty trained to be in the pools. So you couldn't do like a swim diaper and have the baby in the pool, if I'm correct. That being said, Disney Cruise Line has been having tons of promos and really good prices. I feel like you can't go wrong with either. I would kind of have it in my head of like, I'm going to do both eventually. And just which one do I want to do first for the best price and the most convenient to where I live? Emma is Scott asked, we did Walt Disney World this year. Return next time or do Disney World? I think she means Disneyland. 3 kids ages 4 through 9 located Midwest. So you're smack dab in the middle, it sounds like. So they did Disney World this year. Should they go back or do Disneyland? But your kids, it sounds like 4 through 9 can ride anything. So, man, this is a tough one. I would say if you are going during like Halloween or you're going for Christmas, I would lean a little bit more towards Disneyland if you're like into the holidays, because they have a lot more just things going on at Disneyland. Disney World has a lot of stuff. I just think Disney World is so big. It's like they have a lot of activities spread over such a large area. You feel it like less intensely than Disneyland. It's like so much more condensed and like juicy in Disneyland. So if you're going during the holidays and you like the holidays, that's where I would lean. Bailey asked, any plans to do Disneyland or a Disney cruise anytime soon? Short answer is no. I am definitely going to be going back to Disneyland, and I definitely want to try a Disney cruise at some point. We have a lot going on behind the scenes for our immediate family and extended family and projects that we have going on. And my main focus is Disney World. And we also like traveling to other places. So it's very hard to time these things. And I know a lot of you relate of trying to balance like having solo trips, just us, versus having trips with the in-laws and my side of the family and friends. It's hard. So nothing set in stone, but definitely someday. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Laid Back Magic Way podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and it was helpful for you, it would mean the world to me if you'd write a quick review. Your reviews help more moms like you find the show, and I read every single one of them. Seriously, thank you in advance. You can find me on Instagram at Somewhere Worthwhile, and I'd love to hear from you there. DM me if you have any questions about this episode or what you'd like to see in future ones. Until then, keep planning for your next favorite memory, and I'll see you next time.